Hey guys, welcome back. I was asked the other day by a friend of mine what makes a car special or just an appliance. I've always kind of thought about it like some cars have souls and some cars are just appliances. Uh, I had an 86 Ford Tempo that I drove as a daily driver when I was in nursing, working in nursing homes. It was nothing special. I felt no connection to the car. It just started and got me where I needed to go. But on the other hand, I had a 91 Camaro RS, black with T-tops and a 350 and a 4-speed. Yeah, that had a soul. I had feelings with that car. Now, that doesn't mean per se that only performance cars have souls. There are cars that are much more mundane that for whatever reason you just feel a real connection with. My fiance for a long time drove a 2002 Toyota Camry. It was salsa red metallic. The car ended up going through 2 deer hits, being fixed both times by the body shop, reliable as all get out, and then we ended up giving it to one of our friends who needed a car. Would I say that that's an appliance? Most people think Toyotas are appliances, but something about that car just endeared me to it. I really enjoyed it. I had an 82 Volvo 240 diesel station wagon. It was a headache all the time. The thing made like 81 horsepower and it was 3,000 pounds, so it was working hard all the time. Had a 4-speed manual transmission, and let me tell you, you needed the manual to get anywhere in traffic because of the low horsepower. And because of the low horsepower, it ended up with a leaky head gasket. Most people would think that would, to me, would be just an appliance or a headache, but something about that car, just working on it, keeping it going, I felt like I had a connection to that car. And I think that when you work on a car yourself, you'll be able to know if a car kind of hits you and if it's just something that feels really, really special. I currently, as my daily car, drive a 2012 Kia Soul. I'm not driving this car because I read Car and Driver magazine and I jumped out of my seat looking at a picture of a 2012 Kia Soul. I drive it because most people don't know this. My neck was broken about 12 years ago, and I have a lot of titanium in my neck, and it makes it almost impossible for me to get into most cars, because most cars today, for fuel mileage, as 20 years ago the windshield was this, well, now the windshields are this. So to get into a car today, my fiance drives an 11 Fusion, and the windshield's raked far enough back that it's hard for me to get into. Well, my Kia is still shaped pretty much like a box, and it's really easy for me to get into. So when people ask me what was the selling feature on driving a Kia Soul, because not a lot of guys drive around in a Kia Soul, they used hamsters on the commercials to sell the things. It's just that I could get in and out of it, and I never have to duck my head in or out. My P71 police car, I have to duck my head, but it's not quite as bad. And I think that even though I really love her Fusion, I think it might be because of the fact that it's so hard for me to get into. I don't have a connection with it or any feeling. But of course, I can get into my Kia. Her Ford Fusion, I don't have any real connection with. My Kia, I appreciate the fact that it's so reliable and it has asked so little of me. I've done struts and a wheel bearing and brakes. I've done a transmission temp sensor, just the things that are normal, but I don't, the weirdest thing most people don't seem to understand or do if they don't like cars is I name my cars. I name all my cars. But if I have a car that doesn't really have a name, it'll tell you that I don't have that kind of a connection with it. My P71 is named Alice because I'm a huge fan of the 1951 Disney animated Alice in Wonderland. I'm also a fan of Tim Burton's, not as much, but the character of Alice. So I had the Ford emblem on the front of my Ford P71 Crown Victoria taken off, and it was done up in the same blue that they used for Alice's dress, and it has, in the same script that is used for the Ford logo, it says Alice. I have a big connection to that car, and that car, I feel something when I drive that car. You know, there's a difference between driving a car and riding in a car. Excuse me. My Kia, I don't really have a name for my Kia. Just the Kia, you know, which you'd think that I might give it more love, considering that in reality it's been super reliable. I've never once not had that car start. And my P71, it's a work in progress, and there's some gremlins that I have to work out on it, but you know, I don't name the Kia. I haven't named her Ford. I don't have those type of, I think if I were to sell the Kia today and find something else, I could easily do that. But when I name a car, that usually tells me that that car has a soul, and I have a connection to that car. Now that doesn't mean it just has to be my car. I can have that connection to another person's car, even if they don't have that connection, which sounds crazy. My friend Joe has a 99 Honda Civic that he's been working on for 10 years. We call her Betty, you know, Black Betty, 4-door. He's cut so much weight out of this car. It's got better suspension, better brakes, better wheels and tires. But now, after years and years and years, she's starting to consume oil and has low compression on cylinder 1. He's parked her in the garage. He is ready to part her out and get rid of her, but she's been in the group for so long that I personally have a connection with that car. That's the worst part. It's worse to have a connection to somebody else's car because it's their choice. They can decide to keep it or get rid of it if they want to. I think that I find that sometimes, whether this is right or wrong, I have more of a connection to cars than I do some people. My friend Heath has that Z28 with the 6-speed and the LS in it, and to be completely honest, I don't feel anything for that car, which you can't fault a person for how they feel, but he loves that car to death, and he will go out of this world with that car in his garage, whatever shape it's in. But for some reason, my friend Joe's 99 base model Honda Civic sedan, it's got a place in my heart. And that 99 Camaro Z28 convertible, take it or leave it, like I don't feel anything. I would have to say at the top of my list right now, because Turbo is gone, would not be Alice. My father-in-law has a 2001 Pontiac Firebird in this saffron orange that they only made 157 of. Every time I look at a car, I see what the possibilities are, what you could do with the car, what could happen. It is the only car that I have ever seen. I've worked on it, of course, because it's one of his. I work on all his cars. That I look at it and think, perfect. Nothing. Do nothing. Absolutely nothing. No performance modifications, no body modifications. Perfect. It is without a doubt my favorite car that anyone that I know owns, and everybody knows that by now. The only modifications that I've made to that car is I put some cross-drilled brake rotors and some better brake pads, and it's a 3800. It's a V6 Firebird, and you know, in the day, if you told me that I would love a V6 Firebird, I would call you crazy. But I love this car. In fact, I love this car so much that it worries me when it's driven to the car shows. Like, I love this car more than probably my own. Well, we were leaving a car show one day. My friend Heath pulls away in his Z28, and it's got dual exhaust. And my father-in-law looked at his V6 Firebird, which had, of course, one exhaust pipe because it was just a V6. And he said, you know, I wish I had dual exhaust. So the next year I talked him into going down to Fred's muffler shop in Oskaloosa. Shout out to Fred, man. He does a great job. We brought it in there and they said there's no way to make good sound out of a 3800 V6 Chevy motor. And I was like, there's no way. So I did a bunch of research. I mean, a lot of research over about 2 and 3 weeks. We ended up with a Flowmaster 90 muffler with a single in and dual out, with these tips that were about $75 a piece, but they were shaped like machine guns with the holes and the resonators in them. His Firebird sounds amazing, and it's crazy to watch a man in his late 80s who got his first car that really sounded good. We came back into town by Dairy Queen, and we're at the red light, and I hear him revving up his car like he is 16 years old and in his late 80s. But yeah, that car has soul. That car has all the soul in the world, and everybody in this family knows that you could probably do a lot of things to me, man, but you don't mess with that car, because I love that car a whole bunch. You know, he's got 2 trucks, a Nissan Titan, totally reliable, causes no problems, 0 rust. It's an '05, but then he has an '86 Ford F-250 4-wheel drive with mechanical fuel injection, like a 2-year only mechanical fuel injection, which is a huge pain in the rear end to work on. Like, it is a nightmare to work on this truck. I have worked on this truck so much that sometimes I want to drive it and sometimes I want to just drive it into the pond. But it's now after years and years and years of work and learning, it runs like a top. Starts every single time. The carburetor is brand new. I've put in new starters, new solenoids, new fuel tanks, mechanical fuel pumps. And to be honest, if you ask me which truck I liked better, it's that beat up rusty '86, man. I love that F-250, you know. It's got all the soul in the world, because no matter what happens to that truck, and let me tell you, it happens all the time, I can fix it. And then it keeps going, and it wants to keep going, but it is a headache. And sometimes I think it's a challenge for me, but that kind of gives it that feeling of that connection for me where I want to keep it going. You know, don't tell my father-in-law that, because he probably would tell you that I want to actually just roll it into the pond sometimes, but I love it. So I would say if you feel that personal connection to a car, that's a car you need to keep. That's a car that needs to be your project car. And if you have a car that's super reliable and you maintain it, that's great, but that's probably not the car that you should be putting extra money into. Like my Kia. I've done, like I said, I've done struts and brakes, sway bar links, the normal upkeep, but I'm not going to put any money into modifying that car, because that's just not the feeling that car gives me. I give that to my P71, to my Police Interceptor. So if you're lucky enough in the future to find a car that gives you that feeling, you know, like, jump on it, keep that car, keep working on it, you know, keep at it. And just hope that you never have that love for a car that doesn't belong to you. Because let me tell you, I love that Firebird. Man, I love that Firebird. But that Firebird belongs to my father-in-law, so I'm kind of screwed. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We did one where I'm as you can see, I'm standing up. I need to stretch my back a little bit. We've been doing so much snow removal here in Iowa for the last week and a half, that my back's a little crooked. But well, you know, I hope to see you guys again. All right, Uncle Dave.